In hindsight, do you think that Vince is trying to run different experiments on both shows? I mean, on some level, not to overthink this, but it feels like we need a SmackDown sort of tent pole and we need one for Raw. We got to have leaders for both. We got to have flagships for both. Is the thinking at the time, and I know that, you know, some of this stuff you guys never want to admit, I understand, but Raw's always been Vince's baby until, you know, maybe last fall. But if, we've always heard that Raw was the A show. Is that the thinking that, hey, it seems like Raw's the A show. We feel like Batista's going to be the guy who really breaks out of the two. We're going to stick him on Raw.
No, I think that Raw was the flagship show, and if they want to call it the A show, then they can call it anything they want. But when SmackDown started, it was on broadcast television. So it was, in many people's opinions, including mine, it was the A show because it had more eyeballs, the opportunity to have more eyeballs on it. And Raw was cablecast, one was broadcast, one was cablecast. But they were different. They had a different feel about them, just in general. So I think the audience and the talent and people that know that kind of needles some people, oh, you're on the A show, oh, you're on the B show, that kind of shit. I think that people just perpetuated that perception and kind of made it into more than it actually was. But without a doubt, I think if you were to ask people in the office, if you were to ask the talent, that they would give you that same perception. Oh yeah, Raw's the A show. Don't disagree. I don't agree with it. I disagree with it, but I think that would be the general perception. Yes.
You know, this whole breakdown of, hey, we're here to camouflage their weaknesses. And, man, isn't that what you do for everybody? I mean, that's an old thing that we've heard as wrestling fans from Paul Heyman. You hide the negatives, accentuate the positives. You know, let's not focus on what we don't have. Let's focus on what we do well. That just seems like what everybody has tried to do in wrestling for generations. That's not necessarily new for Cena and Batista, right?
No, it's not. And that's how you make stars, is you find what makes them unique and you exploit it. Exactly.
Turn the volume up is another phrase that we hear. You find what they're good at and turn the volume up. So, let's go to the Torch for some more notes here. He says there are mixed feelings about the second Raw Diva Search within WWE management. Some are in favor of it, namely Stephanie and Kevin Dunn, who see it as a dose of reality TV to mix in with the wrestling. The hope is to find another Christy Hemme who can eventually not just do a Playboy shoot, but also become a good wrestler and work like Trish Stratus and Lita. However, there are strong but muted opinions among others in WWE that it's a colossal waste of time and money, and that it is created because certain people in management enjoy the perks of the competition process. So talk to me a little bit about the Diva Search. You know, we've touched on this a little bit before, but I don't know that I know your opinion. Did you like it? Did you think it was entertaining TV, or are you more JR old school? I don't want to see that shit.
It was a train wreck. It was train wreck television. And I was not a big fan of it from the standpoint of it was a tough sell. You had a tough sell to the talent that were there. When they look at it, they go, oh my God, $1 million Diva Search. In their head was, okay, whoever wins this Diva Search that day gets $1 million check. Here you go. That's not how it worked, folks. If you won, then you got a contract, but that contract, you know, had cut clauses in it and everything else. So the Diva Search, what I did not like about it at the time was that the feeling from the contestants was one of, I want to be a star. I don't care about WWE. I don't care about the rest of the talent. And that's just not a good attitude to have, in my opinion. I think that if you're there, then you want to be a part of the team and you want to do your best and you want to be the best that you can be, not just, I want to win $1 million. And that was probably my biggest knock on it. It was difficult to program, and it was the contestants, for the most part, my opinion, just weren't always the easiest to work with, and they had different and varying degrees of views of the business and what they wanted to do and why they wanted to be in it. There were those that wanted to be in it and excel. I remember specifically like Michelle McCool, who wanted to be in the business. She wanted to learn. She wanted to do whatever it took. And she was willing to bust her ass, and she wanted to learn more than just what we were doing at the time. There was another one, Joy was another one that just wanted to learn. And then there were those that just wanted to be the number one diva.
We should mention, Ashley Mazzaro winds up winning in 05. Let's talk about Brock Lesnar. WWE is going to file countersuit against Brock Lesnar and stop sending royalty payments. And it's because he appeared at the New Japan January 4th Tokyo Dome event, which we now know as Wrestle Kingdom. He didn't wrestle, but he was seated ringside with his fiance we know her as Sable. And of course his old pal, Brad Rheingans. But the deal is apparently New Japan advertised him ahead of time, which means he couldn't have just attended as a spectator. For the record, Wade would say he was transported by a New Japan limo and met with New Japan folks. So he's definitely not just a spectator, which nobody thought he was. You guys are wise to this. Part of the agreement when you release him or allowed him the opportunity to be released from his contract was that he couldn't work in pro wrestling or mixed martial arts until 2010. Well, it's still 2005 here. So clearly he's broken that. What do you remember about this? This is the first time that it feels like we're really brushing up against each other, WWE and Brock Lesnar.
Well, it's the first time brushing up against him since he left. And the feeling was that if you allow him to do one thing, then you've got to allow him to do others. And it was that simple. It was a legal issue of protecting the contract, and Brock had left early with the understanding that he couldn't do anything in the wrestling space, and you've got to protect that. So that was really all it was saying, hey, that's still within the world, and it's still within where the WWE promotes. So I had to do something.
Let's talk a little bit about an incident that happened overseas. Wade would write, there was an incident between some drunk martial artists and WWE wrestlers at the Hilton Hotel lobby in Birmingham on the overseas tour on Sunday night. The wrestlers present manhandled and restrained the drunk kickboxers until police arrived to restore order in the lobby and the parking lot. There were some bloody noses, but no serious injuries. Quote, the wrestlers essentially subdued the idiots until the police arrived. It's also written that Dave Batista restrained Cash Gill, a 6'3" ex-kickboxing world champion, during the melee. And the UK Sun would write, terrified guests dived for cover as the fighters squared up in a martial arts show, sending feet, fists, and glasses flying. They watched amazed as the boxers lashed out with a fury of acrobatic spinning kicks and punches, while the touring grapplers hurled their opponents around the reception hall. Boy, it feels like they're trying to sell some papers. What do you remember about this event?
Yeah, no shit. Everybody was staying in the same hotel, and they had an MMA show, and then we had our live events there. So by the time everybody got back to the hotel, it was the MMA guys going, oh, it's a bunch of fake wrestlers. It's the wrestlers going, oh, hey, look at the shooters. And just a lot of testosterone in that bar. And then you add alcohol to that. Not a good scene. And I think one, led to one guy calling out one guy, to another one backing him up, to somebody else backing him up, to where eventually, and I was not there, from what I heard from people who were there and a part of it, that they eventually got out into the hotel lobby and basically kind of squared up on opposite sides of each other. And the MMA guys threw the first punch, and it was on, and it didn't last that long because, as legend has it, that the boys subdued him. They had already called the police. The hotel security had already called the police because they saw what was going on in the bar.
Right.
And in the bar, there was a lot of fuck yous, and, oh, well, let's go outside and let's do this. So there was a feeling from the hotel security that something was going to happen. And so the police were on their way. It wasn't like, okay, they had the fight and we're going to hold them down. Now phone the police. And you wait for the police to get there. They were already on their way. So by the time the fight happened, the police were pretty much there. And on all accounts, keep in mind, the only accounts that I heard from our boys was that the WWE guys pretty much dominated and took them down and did what they needed to do. And the police all got there and separated everybody. I don't even think any arrests were made. It was just, okay, you go your way, you guys, the bar's closed, everybody go away.